underneath, and pretty cool aerial photos there. Story now about a gathering today at Workforce Solutions headquarters downtown, a chance for some folks to get a better understanding of what it means to be homeless or to live in a state of poverty. Our Mariah Gallegos was there.
If you didn't have friends or family to call to help you with your bills, help you cover an unexpected expense, help you with childcare, what would you do?
Homeless Outreach Coordinator Emily Schaefer Northrup talks about common misconceptions and data surrounding the homelessness community during today's Real Talk workshop.
It's also a combination of poverty, lack of access to affordable housing. People struggle with getting access to substance use disorder treatment, mental health care. There's a variety of factors that influence whether or not someone will experience homelessness.
Northrup says she hopes attendees can better understand the other side of homelessness and break away from varied stereotypes.
Help people to understand the different types of homelessness and what the face of homelessness actually looks like. And it's not always what you see.
Sherry Peterson is with the United Way of Coastal Bend. She says today's event is an opportunity for the community to interact and have learning conversations. During the workshop, attendees were asked to follow along with an online game about surviving poverty. The game challenged them to make tough decisions in realistic situations. For example, should you let your kid play a sport if it means paying extra for a uniform or using the money to pay rent and other expenses?
I hope that information empowers them to reach out to the people they know in their networks and work together to make a positive difference.
Mariah Gallegos, 3 News.